The world isn't run by truth, it's run by perception. And those who shape perception shape reality. From the moment you could walk, someone has been training you how to see, what to believe, who to trust, what to fear. And most of it wasn't for your benefit. It was for theirs. Control isn't always overt. It doesn't come dressed in chains or threats. It wears smiles, approval, silent expectations. And if you're not awake, it slides into your psyche unnoticed until you can no longer tell where your thoughts end and their commands begin. To become someone no one can manipulate, you must first realize how much of you has already been manipulated, how much of your personality is performance, how many of your choices were reactions, not decisions, how many of your values were never truly yours, they were inherited, absorbed, or installed. Most people don't have a self. They have a script, written by fear, edited by shame, directed by whoever speaks the loudest. But not you, not anymore. You're about to burn the script. You're about to reclaim authorship. You're about to step into a kind of sovereignty that makes people uncomfortable because it cannot be bought, bullied, or bribed. It starts in the mind. Your mind is the battlefield. It always has been. That's why every religion, every government, every corporation wants a piece of it. If they can control your focus, they control your decisions. If they can shape your desires, they shape your destiny. So, if you want to be free, truly free, you must unhook your mind from their matrix. Syphoria, that ecstatic state of psychological freedom, isn't found in comfort. It's found in confrontation, in interrogating every belief until you hit bedrock, in refusing to outsource your authority. You stop taking things at face value. You start asking, who profits from me believing this? That's the question they hope you never ask. You begin to notice the manipulations not as isolated incidents, but as a pattern. The way guilt is used as a leash, the way flattery is used as a trap, the way fear is used as a cage. You stop mistaking kindness for integrity. You stop confusing attention with love. You stop assuming someone has good intentions just because they have soft words. You realize the most dangerous manipulation doesn't come from enemies, it comes from those who pretend they care. And so you armor yourself not with walls, but with clarity. Clarity is the enemy of manipulation, because you cannot be coerced into confusion when your inner compass is calibrated to truth. But clarity demands solitude, stillness, silence. And that terrifies most people because in the silence, the voices get louder. The echoes of childhood wounds, the whispers of unmet needs, the shadows of unhealed stories. But you face them. You walk into the silence willingly, because only by knowing your own darkness can you stop being controlled by it. That's the paradox Jung knew well, that the shadow you repress becomes the puppet strings others use against you. The need to be liked, the fear of abandonment, the hunger for validation. These are the strings, and anyone who knows how to pull them owns you. So you cut them one by one. You look your need for approval in the eye and deny it. You stare down your fear of rejection and choose truth anyway. You break your addiction to praise until silence no longer scares you. This is the making of an unmanipulatable being. Someone who doesn't flinch when guilt is weaponized. Someone who doesn't fold when love is threatened. Someone who can walk alone and still feel whole. You stop giving access to people who haven't earned your trust. You stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You stop negotiating your value like it's up for debate, because it's not. And when you embody that, when your spine is made of conviction, not compliance, people feel it. The manipulators recoil. They can't find a handle. They can't find an entry point. Your silence unnerves them. Your self-respect confronts them. Your emotional independence terrifies them, because you no longer need them. And that's the one thing they can't control. A sovereign mind that's not addicted to external input. You listen, but you don't obey. You consider, but you don't conform. You see the game, but you no longer play it. And suddenly, manipulation no longer works because the tools they use have lost their power over you. Fear, guilt, shame, seduction, all useless on someone who's done the inner work. You've faced your shadows. You've integrated your darkness. You've reclaimed the exiled parts of your psyche. You know who you are. And more importantly, you know who you're not. You're not here to be liked. You're not here to be manageable. You're not here to be convenient. You're here to be true. And truth is immune to manipulation. Truth does not bend to keep the peace. It does not soften its edges to make others comfortable. It stands tall, even when it stands alone. And that is what you've become, a force of truth in a world addicted to illusion. They can't guilt you because you owe them nothing. They can't shame you because you've already faced your flaws. They can't flatter you because you don't need their approval to validate your existence. You are untouchably no, because you are invincible, but because you are integrated. You have walked through your inner wilderness. You've met your hunger, your rage, your longing to be seen. You've stopped outsourcing your needs to broken systems and broken people. You've taken your power back. This is what it means to be psychologically sovereign. To no longer be seduced by promises or paralyzed by threats. To no longer sell yourself out for connection that costs you your truth. You start choosing differently. You choose stillness over drama, depth over attention, silence over forced smiles. You stop playing roles. You stop managing other people's emotions. You stop betraying yourself to maintain fragile peace. You'd rather be alone than perform. You'd rather be misunderstood than silenced. You'd rather lose what isn't real than keep living a lie. Because the life you gain on the other side of manipulation is one of brutal beauty, raw, real and rare. And yes, some people will leave. Some will call you cold, arrogant, distant, but that's only because they can no longer control you. What they see as distance is just your clarity. What they call coldness is just your boundaries. What they name arrogance is just your refusal to play the game. Because once you taste freedom, control tastes like poison. You see, manipulation, for what it truly is, a parasite that feeds on unconsciousness. It survives only where awareness is absent. But your awareness has become a sword, sharp, precise, unforgiving. You cut through false narratives. You cut through the noise. You cut through the social theater designed to keep you tame. You do not raise your voice. You raise your standards. You do not argue. You remove yourself. You do not chase closure. You create your own. Because your peace is no longer negotiable. Your clarity is no longer for sale. You've become the kind of person who cannot be moved by guilt. Because you've already made peace with your past. You cannot be seduced by attention. Because you no longer crave the spotlight of others to illuminate your worth. You cannot be manipulated with silence because you've learned how to sit in your own stillness. You cannot be steered with anger because you no longer react, you respond. And this kind of strength, it doesn't scream, it doesn't demand, it simply is. It radiates in your presence. It speaks in your boundaries. It lives in your choices. And now, when you enter a room, the manipulators can feel it. This one cannot be played. This one sees too much. This one knows who they are. You've built an inner world so fortified that no one can rewrite your story without your consent. You're no longer acting in someone else's narrative. You're writing your own. And in this new story, you are not the victim, not the pawn, not the pleaser, not the martyr. You are the author, the sovereign, the immovable force, the unshakable truth. You are no longer reactive, you are rooted. No longer dependent, you are defined. No longer driven by survival, you are designed by intention. This is what freedom feels like, not chaos, but command. Not rebellion for rebellion's sake, but the deep, grounded authority of someone who knows who they are, what they value, and what they will never again tolerate. You no longer walk into rooms wondering how to be accepted. You walk in knowing what you accept. You no longer scan people's faces for approval. You study their energy for alignment. You no longer fear loss, because anything you lose while being true to yourself was never real to begin with. And this truth becomes your compass. You are no longer seduced by shiny distractions, no longer pulled by emotional hooks, no longer softened by nostalgia for what once wounded you. Because now you see manipulation not just as an act, but as a system. An invisible structure designed to keep you in patterns, old roads, old scripts, old cages. And you have decided to walk out, not loudly, not dramatically, just completely. And now you're untouchable. Not because you fight harder, but because you play a different game. Not because you build higher walls, but because you stand on firmer ground. Not because you control others, but because you've mastered yourself. You've realized the truth, that no one can manipulate the person who needs nothing from them. So you've detached, not from life, but from illusions. You've detached from the fantasy of being saved. You've detached from the belief that you must earn love. You've detached from the idea that your worth is negotiable. And in that detachment, you found your power. Not numbness, not apathy, but a blazing, sacred clarity. A clarity that says, I am not yours to mold. I am not here to please. I am not for sale. I am not afraid. I am free. And with that freedom comes a new kind of responsibility. The responsibility to guard your mind like a temple, to filter what you allow into your space, to fiercely protect the frequency you fought to reach, because you will be tested again and again. People will come dressed as allies, speaking the language of support, but you will know, you'll feel it in your body, in the tightening of your gut, the shifting of your breath, the subtle discord in your intuition. And this time, you'll trust it. You won't doubt yourself into submission. You won't gaslight your gut into compliance. You won't betray your instinct just to keep someone else comfortable. You'll walk away, even if it hurts, even if it costs you something, because your peace is priceless now, your energy sacred, your soul sovereign. And that is the power of becoming someone no one can manipulate. You don't flinch at silence anymore. You don't chase closure. You don't explain your worth to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You observe, you discern, you move, because alignment isn't loud, it's lethal. It's the stillness before the storm, the calm confidence that doesn't need to be announced. And in that silence, people feel you. They feel the boundary, the clarity, the sovereignty. Your presence becomes your protection, your discernment becomes your weapon, and your detachment becomes your shield. They can't figure you out because you've stopped being predictable. You've stopped reacting. You've stopped giving them a script to control you. Now they're faced with something they can't manipulate. Your stillness, your refusal to be triggered, your unwillingness to play the role they expect. Because you've left the stage, you've exited the drama, you've walked off the set of the performance they needed you to keep playing. Now you are real, untouchably real. And the more real you become, the more repelled the manipulators will be. Because they feed on confusion and you are clarity. They feed on emotional chaos and you are grounded. They feed on insecurity and you have made peace with your power. That power isn't about dominance. It's about presence. The kind of presence that makes people reconsider how they treat you. The kind of presence that makes games feel pointless because there's no angle to exploit. You don't chase, you attract. You don't beg, you embody. You don't control, you command. Because manipulation is a game for those still trying to fill the void with control. And you've made peace with the void. You've looked it in the eyes and made it your throne. So they can't move you. They can't bait you. They can't make you doubt what you've already seen. You see through the flattery now. You see through the tears. You see through the silence, the delays, the passive aggression. You see the strategy, the pattern, the attempt, and you choose to rise above it, not out of pride, but out of protection, out of deep reverence for the version of you who finally woke up, who clawed their way out of the mental maze and remembered their name. Because when you become someone no one can manipulate, you do more than protect yourself, you liberate others. Your presence gives them permission to walk away from what breaks them, to question what controls them, to reclaim what they gave away too easily. You become a mirror, a reminder, a threat to every lie they were told to accept. And not everyone will thank you. Not everyone will stay, not everyone will understand. But that's the cost of truth. That's the cost of becoming ungovernable. And it's worth it. Every ounce of solitude, every boundary you enforced, every tear shed in silence while you broke the shackles of the performance. Because now you move as who you are not, who they need you to be. And that, more than anything else, is what makes you powerful. Untouchable, unmanipulatable, unbreakable. Because now, you're not just someone who can't be manipulated. You're someone who awakens others to how deeply they've been manipulated too. You walk through the world as a living disruption, a signal that something else is possible, that there's another way to exist without the masks, without the self-sacrifice, without the performative chains that keep people small. And it shakes them. It shakes the systems. It shakes the foundation of every shallow connection that depended on your obedience. Because you're no longer here to obey. You're not here to be liked. You're here to be true. And truth disrupts. Truth divides. Truth demands it. It demands that people either rise to meet you or fall away. And when they fall away, you don't chase. Because you no longer mourn the loss of what was fake. You don't grieve the absence of what was never real. You bless it, release it, and keep walking. Your silence now says everything. It says, I see you. I know what this is. I'm not playing anymore. That energy, that's lethal to manipulation. Because manipulators thrive on confusion and you are clarity. They thrive on your guilt and you are innocent. They thrive on your doubt and you are resolved. They thrive on your longing and you are already full. There's nothing left for them to pull. No hook, no handle, no entry point. You are clean, whole, centered. Because you finally saw through the performance, yours and theirs. You finally realized manipulation only works on the parts of you that are still afraid to be alone, afraid to be seen as selfish, afraid to lose love. And you faced those fears. You held them in the light. You stared them down until they had no more power. You stopped bartering for connection. You stopped editing yourself to fit broken systems. You stopped contorting to be digestible. You became solid. And now, even when the voices rise, when the pressure builds, when they throw their best tactics at you, you remain rooted, grounded, unshaken. Because there is nothing they can take from you that you haven't already willingly given up. You've surrendered the need to be understood, the need to be agreed with, the need to be seen a certain way. You walked naked into the fire and came out forged, not harder, clearer. And that clarity, it protects you more than any armor ever could. It guides you more than any rule ever has. Because it's your clarity, born in silence, honed in solitude, tested in fire, and no one can touch it. No one can twist it. No one can use it against you. Because it's not performance, it's not strategy, it's essence. Unshakable, unmanipulatable, unmistakably you. So now when you walk into a room, you don't wonder who will like you. You wonder what truth is waiting to be spoken, what distortion is waiting to be dissolved, what illusion is ready to be burned. Because you don't just walk in with presence, you walk in with fire. The kind of fire that makes liars stutter, that makes manipulators squirm, that makes weak structures collapse under the weight of your integrity. You don't scream, you don't force, you don't prove. You exist fully, freely, fiercely, and your existence is an act of defiance. A refusal to be controlled, a rebellion against a smallness that once fit like a second skin, a living, breathing embodiment of what happens when a soul decides to come home to itself and never leave again. You are no longer breakable, because you've already been broken and chose not to die. You are no longer impressionable, because you've etched your own code into the bones of your being. You are no longer moldable, because you've become the mold. Now, you walk with the kind of power that doesn't seek control, but commands respect. The kind of peace that doesn't fear chaos, but walks into it with grace. The kind of truth that doesn't flinch because it no longer needs to. This is what happens when you become someone no one can manipulate. You don't rise with rage. You rise with mastery. You don't fight for space. You are the space. You don't seek attention. You carry intention. You have nothing to prove because you are no longer defined by anything outside of yourself. And that is the final freedom. When you no longer bend to be loved, when you no longer shrink to be safe, when you no longer silence yourself to be accepted, you simply are. And that is enough. That has always been enough. You are not here to be shaped. You are here to shape. You are not here to be managed. You are here to lead. You are not here to be understood. You are here to become. And now that you have truly, fully, fearlessly, no one will ever be able to manipulate you again.